Hey everybody. Well, today we're going to take a look at this really cool wood model kit of a turtle. I happen to find this on Amazon, and it's from a company called Echo Wood Art, or EWA. And this company makes a whole bunch of really cool wood model kits of different things, vehicles and other various things. They even have like a miniature foosball table. And so what's really cool about this particular kit is that you can actually wind it up. So there's a little winding mechanism here, and it uses rubber bands, although I'm not really a fan of the rubber band mechanism. We'll have to see how that looks when I get it done. But you'll wind it up and he'll actually walk. So I thought that was really cool. So this thing has 269 pieces, and I've put together quite a few of these wood model kits before, and they're really pretty fun, and they function pretty well. On the back here, it shows three other model kits that they make, but they have way more than just these three. But I think that turntable will actually turn, the tractor actually rolls, the dog actually walks as well. The dog is really cool, actually, because the head kind of moves along, kind of bobbles, and so does the ears. They wiggle. So it has a little more movement than the turtle does, but still, they're really neat. Okay, well, let's take a look at what the parts look like on the inside. Okay, so this has 7 pieces of wood that all the parts are on that we can see here. So there's 3 up there, there's 3 more here, and then there's another one here. So these are all numbered, as we can see. So it starts with, I think you start with number 1 and 2, and you can see all the parts are numbered themselves. And there's a lot of parts here. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of parts to this set. So there's like the number 2, and it lets you know which piece of wood here that you're going to be using. But you can see there's just a ton of parts on here. Looks like there's some gear mechanisms going on here. That part, that big section that's open right there, I'm not sure why that's open like that, but it's probably a part that was made for another kit, but they ended up not using on this one. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pieces on here, so this will probably take a while to put together, but it looks like it'll be fun though. So the wood kits that I've built in the past were by a company called Rokr, R-O-K-R, but this one's by Echo Wood Art, and it looks exactly the same way that they do the parts. So you just pop these out of here, but you got to be careful when you do it. You don't want to force them out of there, and you don't want to splinter these pieces or mess up the patterns. And then when you do pop them out, you're going to have little nubs left behind. So you can use like a hobby knife like this to shim those little nubs down. Or probably easier would be one of these sanding sticks that you can get at the hobby shop, or even a lady's nail file. And then that way everything's smooth, and especially for the moving parts, you don't want those nubs to interfere with the movement of the parts. This kit also comes with a ton of rubber bands. You can see all the rubber bands that are in here. I mean, they give you a whole bunch of these. I don't know if you're going to use all of those. I'm sure some of them are spares, but it's nice if they give you a lot of them. It also has this little baggie here that has some toothpicks in there. I'm not sure what this is. Looks like some kind of stickers or something. And then you'll notice there's a little piece of wax right there. See that? That wax is for rubbing onto the wood parts that rub against each other. For the gears and things like that, and it makes it smoother. And I've seen they use that in the Rokr kits too. There's also, now it doesn't come with the glue. You don't actually have to glue this kit together. It says you don't have to, but I usually end up gluing them anyway, just to make sure they're strong. And I just use Elmer's Glue All. But I think I'm not going to glue the area where you wind it up with this stuff, just in case these break over time or dry out, and then I have to replace them. So we'll have to see how that is once we get to that point. All right, well, I guess I'll get started building it. I forgot to show you the instruction book here. I just want to show you what it looks like. So you can see here how all of this looks. Let me bring it up here closer to the light. So you can see how it'll show you which sheet of wood you're going to use and what parts, because they actually have it highlighted, which makes that a lot easier. And then it just shows you how it all goes together like that. So when you put pieces like that together, you got to make sure that they're in there all the way and that they're on there snug, because otherwise it's not going to fit right. I mean, once you get the hang of the way everything goes with these kind of wood kits, you'll see what I mean. But see how those 2 pieces that you pre-assembled here, how they have to fit really flush at the top right there? So those are kind of the things you'll learn as you build these wood kits. They're different than your standard plastic model kit. I'd say they're a little bit challenging as far as certain ways that they go together, but they're still very, very fun. All right, now I'm going to get started on this thing. All right, so just a little progress report here. So this is what I got so far. These wood kits, they're a little bit trickier to work with because you are working with wood, and you have to be really careful when you're putting parts together. You don't want to break anything, and sometimes parts have a harder time going together. There's a lot of moving pieces here. You can see this thing moves back and forth right here. These go up and down right here, and then this thing also goes up and down. That might be his tail, I'm not sure. And then you got the toothpicks, which act as support beams that go through there. And then this part here was kind of rinky-dink. It's like you have this piece right here, and you have to actually cut a rubber band in half. And originally I thought that was some kind of special piece, but that's actually just telling you that you got to tie the rubber band on the back. So that's what we got here. So this is what it looks like when you're done. And then it's tied on the back. And then that makes for this little spring action here. So yeah, it's kind of weird, but it's cool. I mean, I'm not a big fan of this rubber band stuff. Like I said, I live in a dry climate here, and those rubber bands are going to dry out in about 2 years. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to take this apart again to figure out how to fix it. I'm not gluing it so far because I'm not sure what has to be glued and what doesn't. It says not to glue it, so I'm just going to go with no glue for now. All right, well, that's what I got so far. Now, there's certain parts of this model that are really tricky. You have to kind of pay attention to what you're doing. So on the instructions here, you'll notice that on this gear, there's a little, see those little markings right here on that one part of that gear? So when you put this together, they all have to match up. So you have to make sure you don't put the gears on the other way so you don't even see those markings. You got to make sure those face out. And then they all got to line up when you put everything together like that. So yeah, and I'm sure there's a reason for it, probably because of the way the turtle walks. But yeah, it's kind of tricky. Further along now, you can see that we got a lot of gear workings here. So when this turns, that's what turns the legs. And there's quite a bit of stuff going on the inside. And then this one here, when you turn this thing moves really quick. I'm not sure what that's going to do, but yeah, it's a pretty intricate mess going on in there. But it's been fun to build so far. All right, moving on. Alright, I'm not going to lie, this part was a pain in the butt. So this is the core section that goes down inside the turtle's shell, and this is the part that you're going to wind up, all the rubber band power. So there is 44 rubber bands on this, 22 per side, but you have to wrap it around, you know, the length of this. But while you do it, you've got to put them in between on the inside of the rings right there. And so I was doing 2 at a time because just to speed things up a little bit. But first of all, you got to make sure when you put them on that they're not twisted. You know, you got them so that there's, you know, no twisting going on in there. And then as you put more on, it gets harder and harder to get those in there because you got less room to work with. So yeah, these things, I mean, these things are tight now because of where those are. So yeah, I mean, it's a cool mechanism, I guess. But yeah, it was a real pain doing all that. All right, well, moving on now. Okay, so it's starting to look more like a turtle now. We got his head put on. This section here, this whole wind-up mechanism, this is a really tricky area to do. So, because you're not really sure what you're doing. So there's these long pieces like this that run down inside here, like this, and that's what kind of holds it together. And it has these little fasteners here on the end. Well, you eventually take these off, and then you split these so that the tension from the rubber band here actually snaps this down into place. But you don't know that's what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, you're not really sure why. So in the process of, let's see, which one is it? This one here, when I was taking one off, it actually broke. And I thought, oh, great, I just broke a piece. But I don't think you're going to use this piece once you take it out. It was just strictly there to kind of hold things together until you got the whole assembly down in there. And then you have to do the whole thing again on the bottom here and pull it out, and then that way this snaps down in place too. So yeah, and then when you they want you to test it, so you wind it. You actually wind it from this side, and then you need to make sure that the gears are turning. But everything's a little stiff at first because you know it's the wood is kind of raw, so you're gonna have to you keep thinking it's getting stuck, and it does kind of get stuck, but you have to kind of keep turning this gear, and then it'll eventually keep moving. I think the tail is going to act like the switch when you flip this up and down. That's what's going to activate it. So it's kind of cool, but yeah, it's just kind of a crazy way that this is set up. And then once it runs for a little bit, I think it'll run a little bit better because it starts to wear the wood down a little bit. All right, well, that was a pretty scary part, but it turned out good, thank goodness. All right, so I got his legs put on now, and those went on pretty good. I didn't have too much of a fight with those. I gotta say, this has been just an intense build. Sometimes you're just like, wow, I can't believe, that's how that works. And there's a lot of like struggling to get certain things to fit right. But I mean, it's not horrible, but it is definitely a challenging build. That's for sure. This is not a Lego set. That's for sure. But yeah, really, really cool. All right, well, I think the last part of this is putting his shell on. So after that, we should be done. All right, I got him completely finished now, and I gotta say, he looks pretty cool. This is a pretty cool looking turtle. That shell really adds a lot to it. It has a lot of internal support pieces on there. The shell is the only part that I added some glue to, because those internal pieces, which you can see the little nubs right here where those snap into on the inside, trying to get the perfect shape of the whole roundness of that is a little bit tricky. I mean, it's not bad or anything, but just to make it a little more strong so that everything kind of stays even, because you got these little sections that just make the whole roundness of it. But yeah, he looks really good. Now, as for the working of this, the wind-up thing, that part I'm a little disappointed in. So let me show you how he moves, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so on the bottom here is where you wind him up right here. But the problem is you have to wind him up really, really tight. I mean, it's almost, I'm scared I'm going to break it because of how much you got to wind it. And then the tail, I think it's supposed to, I mean, you can kind of see he's moving a little bit here. So I think you hold the tail in a upward, and then that helps keep it locked. But it's kind of hard to kind of hold this whole thing. So let me wind it. Now this thing being made of wood, I think also kind of, makes it hard. It's hard to make a mechanical wood thing. He's trying to move on me here. All right, so yeah, I mean, you have to wind him up a lot. And the thing is even after you wind him up this much, he only moves a few steps, and then that's it. All right, so let me see if I can do this. And then let me turn this, and hopefully I can do it without him losing all of his power. All right, here we go. See, I mean, that's it. He takes just a few steps, and then that's it. Like, I can try to move him a little bit. Now, if I pick him up, let me see, let me get this thing moving here. You can see, I mean, he moves, as far as like the power of the wind up, but I think the inherent weight of this thing is what's kind of holding it back. I mean, he doesn't weigh a lot. It's not very heavy, but because of the mechanical movement of these legs, and because it has to do a lot of, it's not like it's a car that just rolls, which would be a lot easier. Because this actually walks, I think it's kind of what's kind of holding this back. So yeah, let me wind him up again. Okay, so let me try this again. Wind this up again here. I'll see if I can wind him up maybe a little bit more. There is a lot of rubber bands in there, like I showed you earlier, and so I see now why they have so many, because you really have to have some power behind this. I don't want to do it too tight because I'm kind of worried that I'm going to break something in there. I mean, you can really start to feel it tighten up here at the end. All right, well, let's do a couple more here. All right, let's try it again here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I mean, you just only get a couple of steps out of him. See, there's a little trigger back here that seems to make him move. Yeah, it just doesn't seem to have the get up and go. Let's see, I don't know. Let me see if I can move. Now, the thing I'm kind of jiggling back here is this little thing right here. So if you see that kind of gets him going. I mean, you can see how much stuff is moving around in there. That takes a lot of energy to move that. And I've waxed all the parts. It has wax in there that you wax any pieces of wood that are rubbing against each other. And I've tested this before I put everything together to make sure everything turns, but it's still just, it just has such a hard time kind of moving. I don't know, I'll try it one more time. It's much easier to turn this at the beginning. I'll see how far I can turn this. Maybe get a couple more steps out of him. the thing on the top right there, it spins really fast, so it unwinds really quick, which might be another reason why he's only taking a few steps at a time. See, it's getting really tight right there, and I don't want to do it too tight because that thing that's clicking is a little wood piece, and I don't want that thing to snap in there. All right, here we go. He's moving pretty quick there. Let's see if I can trigger. Yeah, I mean, he does. I mean, at least he does walk. I didn't think he'd work at all, but at least he does. Yeah, he's only good for just a few steps, and then that's it. Let's see if I get any more out of him here. Where's that thing? Yeah, I think that's it, unfortunately. See, when you pick him up, he works again. There's that trigger thing again. Yeah, so, yeah, wish that part worked a little bit better. So overall, I'd say this thing, I mean, it looks great. I think it looks fantastic. It was fun to build it, a little bit of frustration with some parts, getting this mid-core in there. And it is, it's just because it's a wood model, I think is why it makes it hard for any kind of movement or mobility, especially the walking. The walking, I think, is what makes this particular one difficult. I noticed on the Echo Wood Art website, they were showing a little video of this, and every time they show it, there's really quick cuts. Like they just show it taking a few steps and then they cut and then show it doing it again, which means that they obviously have the same problem I did. So you can tell just by the way they edited the video. But yeah, so I mean, I would say this is more of a display piece. It's not like I'm really going to play with it all that much. Kids might want to play with this maybe, I don't know, but I think kids would have a hard time building something like this. I really do. This is kind of more for an advanced builder. It is really not, it's more of an adult type of thing, I would say, just because it was kind of difficult to put together, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, and also you do get these extra pieces left over. So it's kind of cool. There's some gears in there in case you accidentally break some of this stuff, because there are times where you're pushing this stuff in really hard and you can swear that you're going to break something. I'm surprised I didn't break anything except for those two long pieces, which they actually do give you some extras of these right here. But you only use that for a temporary build to make this part, and then you take them out of there. They're not actually part of the turtle's build. But I love the way his head looks. It's really cool. There's like a printed section there for his eye. And all of this is laser cut. These pieces pop out nice and easy. Like here you can see the parts taken out. You just pop them right out. You need to sand down the little nubs, especially on there's some round wheel-like things, like these kind of things. And you got to put the wax on there. But also, your hands are going to smell like smoked wood for a few hours, because it does have that smell where the laser cut into that. That's what gives it that dark highlight, which actually works. I think that looks good. It helps bring out some of the detail. So as a sculpture, this thing is really cool. I really like it. But as a mechanical thing, that part, I'm gonna have to give that a C. So I think the intention is good there, but I just think it's because it's a wood thing. And because it walks is what holds this thing up. Anyway, Echo Wood Art is the company that makes this. Well, it's shipped from Great Britain. I don't know if that's where the company is, but you can check it out. And so anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please give it a like. And also please subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. And thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate your viewership. And I'll see you on the next video. Thanks again, and have a good one.